Got it. Let me ask you something. These connections you've made, are they based on the meridian clock, that clock which demonstrates the flow of chi, time time by time, flowing from one meridian to another and to another? Have you used that clock for these connections?
Hey, let me ask you, give me that list of meridians. Are you looking at the list of meridians for the clock right now?
No, but I can. I have in my cell phone. I
Yes,
can take a look. Let me
because
take a look at
I
it.
have something prepared for you.
Okay. So let me get it. Okay, I have now.
Okay.
Let's start with midnight. Midnight, gallbladder, and then liver, 2 a.m. Then actually, I think here it should be even numbers. And then 3 to 5 would be lungs. Then 5 to 7, large intestine. Then 7 to 9, stomach. 9 to 11, spleen. 11 to 1, heart. Then 1 to 3, small intestine. Then 3 to 5, bladder. 5 to 7, kidney. Then 7 to 9, pericardium, and then sanjiao, and starts again.
Okay. Can you see what I'm looking at right here?
Yes, let me take a look. So we have heart, then
So on the left, you'll see the spherical pattern. Do you
mm-hmm,
see that?
yes.
And I just rotated it into a certain position. And then off to the right, you're going to see the meridians identified.
Mm-hmm.
So like this green one right here is the pericardium right here. See that?
Mm-hmm.
Gallbladder, the pink gallbladder out here. So let me show you something. Okay. As you start to read through that list, it's going to go after the pericardium, it goes to the lung, right?
After pericardium, it goes sanjiao.
Oh, that's right. Okay, wait. Then you went gallbladder after the liver.
And then after sanjiao, gallbladder, and then after gallbladder, liver, and after liver, lungs.
Okay, what I'm going to show you here is as you go through that order, it goes lung, large intestine, stomach, spleen, correct?
Mm-hmm.
That's a diagonal. See, it's the diagonal. Let me copy this.
Okay.
Let me copy this
Okay,
over.
so
See right there?
stomach,
It's one of those three.
large intestine.
It's one of those three circuits. So So that creates one axis that goes around the sphere. Just imagine this green line here going around the sphere in a circle, connecting
Mm-hmm.
stomach, lung, large intestine, and spleen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, actually, after spleen, where does it go?
Um,
After,
Heart and small intestine.
okay, small intestine is part of the next group. And then it goes from small intestine to
Bladder
bladder,
and kidney.
bladder and kidney. So there you have the next axis that goes around the sphere.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then after
We have pericardium and sanjal, and gallbladder and liver. Got it.
so these are three circles that go around the sphere. When people have seen this spherical structure inside of us, like mystically, they see that structure. Many people have said they see 3 rings around it. And those 3 rings correspond to these 3 groups in that hourly rotation of meridians throughout the day. You have one group in the morning, another group in the afternoon, and another group around midnight.
Yes.
This is what they're seeing. This middle axis here is the du-ren. The middle axis here is the du-ren. So the ren would go from the face where the heart is here, flow down through the small intestine and back up the backside to the kidney. And then the du meridian would flow from the kidney up the back over the top of the head where the bladder area is and come back down to the face. So the circle that goes around the spherical meridian here is the du and the ren. Now, what are these diagonals? Have you studied these diagonals?
No, just the clock.
Okay. These diagonals, well, as you look at the 8 extraordinary meridians,
Ah,
go ahead.
you're talking about the sex energy, 6 energy levels like uh, Taiyang, Shao, Taiyin, Shaoyang, Shaoyin,
No.
Juyin. No, not these ones. Okay.
You know the yin chao,
Yes.
yang chao, things like
Mm-hmm.
that?
Yes.
These are meridians that cross from one side of the body to the other side of the body and create a harmonizing effect from one side of the body to the other. Over here on the left is the Kabbalah. Do you know what the Kabbalah is?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
The Kabbalah represents energy centers on the spiritual energy of our bodies. So these energy centers correspond to energy centers around our body. Did you know that?
Um, I haven't made this correspondence with the body. I was more thinking about other correspondence, but really nice.
So here we have, in the next picture over, in the middle of the body, we have the middle dantian. And then we have the lower dantian and the upper dantian. I may not explain the dantians deeply right now.
It's like chakras, or
People think there are 7 chakras, but
Mhm.
there's differences between those chakras. The dantians are different than the energy centers. For example, the heart, this heart area here, and the bladder area here are areas of archetype, like the heart archetype, the bladder archetype. But they're not dantians. They're not this grouping forming an energy section of the body.
Mhm.
The middle dantian is the heart itself, coordinating all of the 12 archetypes together in one. So it's not one archetype, it's coordinating all of the 12 archetypes. And that's one of the chakras. But you can also say the kidney is one of the chakras. But the kidney and the middle dantian, where it's coordinating all of the 12 archetypes, are very different. So when people say there's one chakra, the next chakra, and the next chakra, thinking they're just going up in colors,
Mhm.
no. The kidney energy center is very different than this middle chakra in the middle of the chest. Very different. It's a different nature. It's a different type of energy center. So from my knowledge,
Mhm.
chakras is not a good way to understand this. The, the best way to understand this is to understand how each chakra is part of this pattern of how the spherical matrix at the center of our being is expressing outwards into the body. So be very careful of chakras because it's not how it really is. The lower dantian, I'll just give a brief definition. This lower dantian, as far as astrology is concerned, are the outer planets: Jupiter, Saturn, Chiron, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. That realm is the lower dantian. It's this subconscious mind that holds all these past patterns and habits that controls who we are. So that's when you go up to the upper dantian, are the inner planets. All these inner planets that all have warm colors, like from pink to yellow. These are all the warm colors of the color spectrum. And the upper dantian is our personality consciously expressing itself.
Mhm.
The lower dantian is really the subconscious power that we have in that area. And in the center is the heart matrix, the middle dantian. So the middle dantian, the heart, the spherical heart, separates, if I can stand up here a little bit so you can see, separates into the conscious and then below the subconscious.
Mhm. Okay.
Have you ever felt that all of a sudden you feel tense or you feel sadness or you feel pain, emotional pain, and you feel it like in your stomach, solar plexus area?
Oh, yes, more in the plexus area. less in the stomach, but yes. Mhm.
That's when you start getting down here into the subconscious, lower dantian area. There's a consciousness down there, which is very different, mainly controlled by the kidney. It's mainly controlled by the kidney. But the liver and spleen are very important in forming the subconscious. But the kidney is very important in that. So you have this liver, spleen, kidney area in here, forming the subconscious. And then around that, you have these yang meridians, large intestine, small intestine, and sanjiao, controlling and managing the subconscious. So all of these symbols down here belong to the outer planets. This is something that so at first I saw the order of the planets, which had never been seen before in astrology. And then ultimately, like 10 years later, that order of the planets I began to see on the spherical pattern. And then I saw that all of the outer planets were down here, down below. I didn't see that for 10 years. I didn't see that. And then I saw it. And all of the inner planets, Sun, Mars, Venus, the Moon, the Earth, and Mercury, all of these inner planets inside the asteroid belt were up here in the upper dantian. And that helps us understand what these dantians are, the upper dantian and the lower dantian. It's just the inner planets, upper dantian, outer planets, the lower dantian. It's that simple.
Okay.
It's that simple. And in the middle is the middle dantian, coordinating heaven and earth. Okay. So now we go back to these diagonals. Remember we talked about these diagonals here?
Mm-hmm.
Let's go.
Yes.
Let's move forward here. So let me see if I can grab all these. Copy them over to here. Move them over here, see if they line up. Okay, so here we have those diagonals. Now, this over here is from Jinshin Jitsu. Have you heard of Jinshin Jitsu?
Yes, I've heard, but I'm not knowledgeable about it, but I've heard this name.
Okay, so in Jinshin Jitsu, it's using your hands to heal the meridians. And so there's
It's a kind of Qigong?
no,
No, no Qigong. Okay.
nope. It's, let's say there's a point on the top of the head and a point on the throat. So you hold them and you feel the pulse. Then the pulse will balance out, and then maybe you move on to the next point, right? So you can take points on these, the middle meridian, the Du and the Ren, and you can just hold points like this to get the energy to flow up and down the center of the body.
Very interesting.
In Jinshin Jitsu, there's also, if you read up here, the diagonal mediators. See that up there, the diagonal mediators? Okay, the diagonal mediators harmonize energy as it circulates between the right side and the left side of the body. These diagonal mediators, which are also seen as one of the 8 extraordinary meridians in Chinese acupuncture, that harmonize the angles of the body, you'll see this is the pattern. You'll follow these arrows as they go around the body, right? You begin to realize that these are connected to these other 2 axes that you see in the spherical pattern. See that? These are diagonal axes, just like you would have the dew and the wren, you'll have these harmonizing axes too. And it's also in the spherical meridian pattern. So as you see over here, the energy will come up from the finger, up the arm, pass through the shoulder, and cross the body to the outside of the other hip. What you're doing is you're coming up the arm and you're coming down gallbladder, going across the body all the way to the sanjia. So you're getting, as you work with this meridian, this diagonal mediator, you're getting chi to flow through this axis right there. It goes from gallbladder to sanjiao. And you'll see here as it goes up the back, it'll also go up the back, right here, right over here. It'll go up the back and cross over. And then it also crosses in the back and goes down the legs. But you get this crossing pattern, this diagonal pattern. And that's where these come from, are these diagonals, which come from, like, just as you said at the very beginning, does this follow the hours as the meridians go through the hours of the day? Yes, because the meridians through the hours of the day are grouped into 4 meridians. The first one is lung, large intestine, stomach, spleen. So you get your first axis right there. And then those go into heart, small intestine, bladder, kidney through the day. And then those, after those are circulating during that period of time, then it goes into the evening around midnight where you start going between the wood and the seed elements right there. And then at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, it switches over to lung and goes into this other axis. And then after this axis goes for 8 hours, it'll go back into the other axis here for 8 hours. And then the next 8 hours, it goes into this axis here. And you can see that specifically in the spherical pattern. You can see these axes, these time periods, clearly in the spherical pattern. And there's treatments for them in Chinese acupuncture and in the system of Jinshin Jitsu from Japan. The treatment, these are the points that you would hold for this diagonal mediator meridian. You go up here, and you don't see it here, but if you use your hands, you put your hand on top of your shoulder, right where that gallbladder, like if you put that spherical pattern around you, the gallbladder would sit right here on top of your shoulder. So you put your hand there. And then you put your hand over on the liver. It's like here, gallbladder, here, liver. And then from there, you can cross over and hold the sanjiao, and you've got the pattern going across the body. And it's just a matter of placing your hands on these energy centers, which originally we saw in the Kabbalah. So we're tying it all together: Kabbalah, acupuncture, astrology. We're tying it all together, color therapy. And so you're placing your hands on these different points. See these little points right there? This is Jinshin Jitsu. And as you place your hand on the elbow, like if you see right here on the elbow, you place your hand on the elbow, and you'll begin to feel a pulse between your hand and the elbow.
Yes.
And at first it may be kind of jumpy, rough, Then just wait, and it begins to relax and then flow smoothly, like a calm heartbeat. And then you know that the energy is balanced and flowing through the area. And then you move on to the next point, and then the next point. But the idea here is that you're moving energy along these diagonal axes. Um, Questions?
In this Kabbalah picture, these spheres would be the meridians, you mean? What is the correspondence between them?
These are energy centers
Mm-hmm.
in the Kabbalah. So each of these circles is an energy center. So in that sense, they're not meridians.
Okay.
It's like we have an energy center over our liver, and it's when, as they describe it, when you see it as energy, it's like this funnel, like a little tornado looking thing that
Mm-hmm.
turns and spins, bringing in etheric vitality into the spleen area. So it's just an energy center that's turning and bringing in energy. And then from there it flows. So it's just an energy center which has specific functions. And so each of these circles is a different energy center. And so even the gallbladder is not the shoulder. It's a little bit outside of the shoulder. It's above the shoulder and out here, the energy center. So you can't really see it. So we touch the shoulder, and it's like our way of feeling it. But it's actually a little bit beyond that. Like
Mm-hmm.
one of the questions you asked was this last one here: is there a methodology to move chi with meditation? Well, yes. You can put yourself in the center of this spherical meridian model so that you feel the bladder behind your head, and you fill your head with yellow color. And then the kidney, you can fill the kidney with that violet color. And then you can fill the liver with green color. You can fill the spleen with sky blue color. And you feel the area, you imagine the color, and so you're vibrating, you're feeling in your consciousness in those areas. And you're nourishing those colors. Now you can breathe, and as you breathe in, you imagine a white light going into your body. And then you distribute that white energy as you exhale. You receive that white light, and you distribute that white light through your body. And you can feel it flowing. You see it flowing through your legs and your feet and your toes as you exhale. And then you inhale more white light. And then you distribute it as you exhale. The light stays within you. The air goes out to bring in more white light. And so if you want to move chi, if you want to create chi, a good way is to feel that area of your palms when you bring your hands together,
Mm-hmm.
and your palms begin to activate. You can feel that energy in your palm. And you, as
Yes.
you feel that energy, you choose a color, say pink or yellow green, a yellow green color. So as you're feeling that energy, you are seeing in your meditation the color yellow green. And so that yellow green you begin to visualize that color between your hands. And now you are creating a thought, and that thought will take on form. And then, so it will actually, you are creating a thought that exists. And then that thought, if you send that thought to somebody else, they will receive that ball of yellow-green energy.
Nice.
And so it's just through visualization, feeling, creating a thought, and then sending that thought. And sending a thought is just a matter of seeing the person and visualizing that energy move. It's called kinetic ether. Kinetic ether is that visualizing is called imprinting ether. Moving it is called kinetic ether. Feeling it is aesthetic ether. Creating it is called creative ether. So you're using these 4 ether elements to create it, and then you use that one kinetic ether to move it. And so these are all aspects of the mind and consciousness to move things, to create things, to visualize things, to send things. So we have the capacity to do that.
Nice. Really nice. Yeah.
So
Like a Reiki session. But
exactly.
different. Yeah. But
Reiki is very intuitive to feel things, and you just let the process happen. But when you can actually speak the language of the angels, because the angels are speaking the spherical meridian language, it's at the heart of astrology, it's the heart of acupuncture. Everything is inside that spherical meridian. All of the patterns, everything is inside there. I have not found one aspect of meridian theory that is not in there. It's all integrated. So when you learn the language of the angels, then when you go to do Reiki, you can actually speak the language of colors, places of the body, movements of the body. Your intuition becomes deeper because then you're now understanding what the angels are trying to tell you. So that this would take Reiki to another level.
yes.
A large part of Reiki is to just be an empty vessel and allow energy to flow through you. But at the same time, as a filter, as energy comes through us, we want to understand that energy structure has to know how to flow through us. So we kind of need to know this stuff, and then it will flow through us better. I guess the next question up, would Du and Ren belong to any element? What do you think?
I believe they should belong to an element that it's above these 6 we know, like a 7, another one.
Let's go back. Let's see. Let's go back to here, I guess. No. Oh, yeah, I guess we're already there. Okay. So we see here the Du and the Ren going through this section of the body, connecting. Which elements are being connected here? With the heart, bladder, kidney, small intestine.
Fire, water,
Fire, fire and water.
else, and yeah.
Yeah. The 2 meridians of
Yes.
fire and the 2 meridians of water.
Mm-hmm.
So the dew and the ren represent the coming together of fire and water, yin and yang. That is the dew and the ren. It's that balancing point, that balancing axis between yin and yang, fire and water. So actually, yes, the dew and the ren function with fire and water elements. So then,
But do is one and ran is another, or they both had the two elements?
well, the ren would go from the heart by way of the small intestine to kidney. So the ren incorporates both of the fire meridians. But the small intestine over down here, its opposite is the bladder. And as you go through the order of the meridians through the day, heart will flow to the small intestine. Small intestine actually flows up to the bladder. And then bladder flows down to the kidney. Kidney flows back to the heart. So it's not really a circular pattern. It's more of a figure 8 pattern. Like that. When you look at how the kidney flows, the kidney meridian, for example, it'll flow up the front of the abdomen and kind of flow back and then circulate through the center of the body. So it's kind of like going up the side, it's going up the outside and through the center, things like that. There are axes going straight up through the center of the body. There's not just meridians on the outside of the body. They're crisscrossing and going through their own patterns inside of the body. So the ren and the dew, okay, we see a line going down the center of the body and we're needling it, right? We're
Mm-hmm.
going down and needling
Yeah.
it.
Yes.
But it's not that the ren meridian is this line coming down. The ren is this branching tree that goes across the body, inside the body, circulating in different patterns. But we're activating it from the surface, right? We touch a point, but when we touch a point like that, all this energy begins to circulate in different patterns within the body. And we don't really see that because we're just activating these things from the surface. But the dew and the ren are actually circulating like a figure 8 pattern through the body. Not just down the front, up the back, down the front, up the back. It's down the front and circulating through the center and coming back down, going back up and around and coming back down. But we're activating it from these points on the outside of the body. So, but the main thing is to say, okay, there's this axis going down the center of the body, going down the center of the body. There's this axis that is the main axis of fire and water. Well, then you ask, what about this other diagonal over here? Its elements are wood, liver and gallbladder, and the seed element, pericardium and sanjiao. Well, yes, there's this other axis, this diagonal mediator flow that has the elements wood and seed. Um, In Jinshin Jitsu, this flow would cross in the solar plexus. This other flow here of the earth and the metal elements, the earth and the air elements, would cross farther up. So in Jinshin Jitsu, they would say that these diagonal mediators would cross at different levels of the Do and the Ren. But from my experience, they're going to cross through the center together around the solar plexus, or just between the heart and the solar plexus in that area. And it depends on how you're experiencing life, whether you're going to feel it down in the solar plexus, or up in the heart. That takes some meditation to try and tune into. But just as much as the Do and the Ren obviously is very important. That's the Shen Jing axis. This is the Jen Xing axis. Jing kidney, Shen heart. Very important. But these other axes that circle around the body are also very important. Because if you remember from the first class where we were talking about the heart and the kidney, and the heart and the kidney want to communicate, but they really can't. They really can't. They're so different. The heart says, it's all me. And the kidney says, no, we got to think of other people. No, it's all me. Kidney says, no, we got to think of other people. So they have a hard time understanding each other. And the only way they can understand each other is through the other meridians. We gave examples of like the stomach and the liver. They can come together in the liver with the kidney water nourishing blood, and then that fire from the heart heating up the blood and giving it that warm, nourishing quality. So the blood is like this perfect blend of heart and kidney, but we find that blood in the liver. So we see this Do and the Ren of the heart and kidney axis, but they're not gonna really communicate that well until we start bringing in these diagonal axes. Do you hear where I'm going with that?
Mm-hmm.
Most people, if not everybody focuses on the Do and the Ren, the Do and the Ren, the Do and the Ren, the Do and the Ren. And so it's like everything's like, we got to do the Do and the Ren. But the Do and the Ren don't really communicate that well together. One's heart, one's kidney. They don't communicate that well. They just don't. They're so different. You need these diagonal mediators for them to communicate. So the key is finding out where these diagonal mediators are and incorporating those into a treatment of the Do and the Ren. And then the Do and the Ren will begin to communicate better because they have another intermediary bringing them together for a different for a specific purpose, like liver. So if you want the Do and the Ren to be balanced in the liver, pick points on the Do and the Ren, and then do a point over the liver or a point on the liver meridian. And then you're going to harmonize the Do and the Ren much better. See where I'm going with that?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
In Jinshin Jitsu, I remember this one man. All he wanted to do for every single patient, he would treat the Do and the Ren. So he would just go from the top of the head right down the Ren. And then when he got to a point down below in the lower abdomen, he'd take his other hand and go right up the spine to the top of the head. And he felt as long as he balanced that Do and Ren meridian in the center, the person would be fine. But he did not get good results. So he had the right idea, but he didn't get good results. Because you have to incorporate these diagonals in order for the du and the ren to communicate. And I learned that people don't learn this, and so they don't do it as good as they can. If they really understood how these things work together and how they form together, they would do much better. So the key is to look at these three axes, one that goes up the center of the body, but these other two that cross the body. And once you start working with those three axes, then you've got it. Let's say the people who work with just the Kundalini energy going up through the chakras. Extremely dangerous, right? Many people have gone crazy by releasing the Kundalini through their chakras, through that center meridian area.
Yes. Once I was doing some exercises for that, and then I got a terrible headaches, and the headaches just stopped when I stopped doing that, and then I figured out this was dangerous, and then I stopped because probably I was not well prepared and did not know everything I should before trying.
Exactly. What you want to do, if you're going to work with the Du and the Ren, the Kundalini energy, very powerful, is you want to incorporate these other areas to the sides of the body. So that's why you go back to this ancient system of the Kabbalah. What they would do is they would start at the bottom and then work their way up to the sides, this liver and spleen area, and also large intestine and Sanjiao. And so they wouldn't go straight up the spine. They would take that energy around the Kundalini area and begin to work it up to like the large intestine and Sanjiao. And then that creates structure to hold that Kundalini moving up. You don't just want it going straight up and frying everything. You want to take it to those yang energies to the side and give it structure, hold it. And then as you move it up, it has a lot more control. So they would go to each one of these energy centers. Can you see my little cursor moving there?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So as you take that Kundalini to the side, to these yang areas that are controlling the body, controlling the consciousness, and controlling the physiology, you begin to meditate in those areas, and then you can control the movement, all that power in the Kundalini. And then once these are functioning, you bring it up through the liver and the spleen. These aren't quite lined up here, but you bring it up through the liver and the spleen. And then once you go through the liver and the spleen, then you start going up these sides of the body to where like the gallbladder and stomach areas are right here. And then once you have these fixed energies, right? Those fixed energies we talked about, large intestine is fixed air Aquarius, Sanjiao fixed water, Scorpio, fixed earth up here, Taurus, fixed fire over here, Leo. Once you have the energy, this Kundalini coming up through these fixed energies, and you've got them prepared, then you take it up here. And that's where you get to that golden yellow light that they call the Christhood. And what it's really doing is it's bringing all that power in the subconscious up to your consciousness. And then you become conscious of spirit. So the bladder, that yellow bladder energy up here, it can now receive safely all of that knowledge, all of that awareness and consciousness from the Kundalini. But you don't want to just go straight up the dew with that energy. That's not good. You want to take that energy and move it to the sides on these diagonal axes. And once you get these diagonal axes, you're developing these diagonal axes, you move those up so that you start at the down here, the kidney, small intestine, and then you develop the spleen, large intestine area over on this side, and then over here, sun, jiao, and liver, and you're developing the base of each axis. And then you begin to move your consciousness up and developing these pericardium and gallbladder, stomach and lung. And once you have them controlled, and once you have control of those energies, and you can talk with those energies, and you can feel those energies, and you can move those energies, and you feel them stable, then you take everything up into your consciousness, into the head area where you actually think and express, and you can actually accept all of that universal power and consciousness from down below. People don't talk about this, but it's an ancient
Yeah.
system. It's an ancient system, but the spherical flow explains that ancient system too.
Yes, I recall that images where we see the energy doing like this and then going up. So yeah, matches with this explanation.
I guess that's the symbol of medicine, right? Where you have
Yes, man,
the
the
snake.
snakes.
The snake.
Yeah.
The Kundalini is sometimes seen as a snake going around like a stick.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a good way to think about how to move it through the body. Is not to just go straight up the stick, but to move like a snake, going around the body to these other diagonal axes. And that's really the key. Wonder if wonder if I have something here that I could show you. Yes, I do. I do have something else I can show you. Okay. So this is that book from Jinshin Jitsu. And this is where I took that picture from. Can you see this?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. This was a picture to show when that mediator, diagonal mediator flow is not in harmony and it begins to crash into other parts of the other meridians, it develops problems around the body. So when that mediator flow is not flowing properly, it creates all these problems in the body. I'm sure you have never seen this in 5-element theory.
No, never.
No. But you could see this in 5-element theory if they would teach more of these diagonal meridian flows, some of the 8 extraordinary vessels. You would learn more about this if they went into it deeper. They just don't say, when you learn 5-element theory, they don't really teach how important these diagonal axes are to meridians.
I like Shong Mai, all that extraordinary. Okay. Yeah.
Yep. And this would give you the way to correct it. These are the points so that it'll flow correctly. And see, incorrect energy, correct energy, is you want that energy to flow to where it needs to go. It's from here, from the gallbladder, right down specifically to the sanjiao sitting on the top of that hip right there. If it goes up too high, it misses it. It's going to set it off balance. And it's going to wobble and create problems in its connections. You want that energy to come right off the shoulder and come right down to the top of the opposite hip. So you want to feel that energy coming right through here, right over the liver, and then right down to the top hip. If it begins to come up too high, you're not going to be able to breathe. If it goes down too low, you're going to feel low energy. So you want that energy, you want that diagonal axis to flow correctly. You know, just imagine if the Ren meridian, which comes down the center of the body, just imagine if the Ren meridian began to deviate to one side of the body. What would that feel like? Well, it happens, but people don't realize it happens. That the meridians actually have a specific place where they need to be, but they'll get thrown off course. They'll get moved in positions that they shouldn't be in, and that creates some disease. So the idea is to get the energy flowing correctly, smoothly, with power. And so these are things you will not find in 5-element theory. Another correction. If you see this is for, you see all of these points here are on the do, and then 2 points on the ren in the front. So this particular combination of points just combines do points and ren points in this one. And that's fine, just to concentrate on the do and the ren. However, it's really important to come back up and start combining in points in the hands to create this diagonal flow that's going to mediate the do and the ren, harmonize them. Super important, but they don't teach it. And you have to really dig into the knowledge history to find this knowledge. The knowledge is there, but it's just not being taught as it should be. And that's another reason why the spherical meridian flow helps us remember how this thing works. That the do and the ren have to be harmonized by these other two axes that cross it. Kind of going through this, anybody who's watching the video at this point could just pause it and look at these pages. So, I studied this for years, and I would work with these for years, doing different points, trying to understand what these things were. What are they saying? What does this all mean? And then I realized, once I placed the spherical pattern over the body with the heart and bladder, gallbladder, stomach meridian, liver and spleen, kidney in the back, and everything fit in its place, and I saw the diagonals, then I thought, now I understand what the do and the ren is. Now I understand what these harmonizing flows are. Now I understand what the meridians are doing, connecting everything. The spherical pattern made it all make sense. This is kind of like a Chong Mai. And let's see if we go back here. This is a quick way. If someone wanted to just quickly harmonize one of these mediator diagonals, axes, like wood and seed element, it would be like over here. You just put your hand on your shoulder, use your Sanjiao finger with the thumb, like this, with the thumb on top of the
Okay.
fingernail. So you're activating the Sanjiao, the Sanjiao archetype meridian. You put your hand on the gallbladder, and then you kind of hold your elbow down here by the liver, and you are activating that one axis that crosses the body. You're activating just by holding your finger like that, and then putting one hand on top of the shoulder. And you're calling the energy to go to flow properly at a diagonal through the body. And then if you do the other side, you can choose a finger like this, and then put your hand on the other shoulder. So you're calling the energy to go through your hand and circulate back up through the shoulder and come down at an angle, at a diagonal across the body. And here you're doing stomach down to the large intestine on the opposite side hip. And so these are basic principles upon which to build acupuncture treatments. Okay, we got the do and the ren, do and the ren. We got these diagonals coming down. Let's make sure we incorporate those because those are holding everything together. And now we just do a simple pattern of choosing meridian point on a complementary meridian, choosing a point on where we want that energy to go, choosing a point on the other side of the blockage, and then needling the blockage, and it all flows and develops a harmony. And in Reiki, I do not know if they teach these harmonizing diagonals in Reiki. I do not know.
I don't think so. Yeah, at least the one I attended, no.
Do they teach just the chakras going up the center of the body?
Actually, they teach more about energy and symbols and visualizing, mentalizing symbols in the hands and then transferring energy.
I didn't realize it, but it's getting very dark here. Can you even see me? Yeah.
I can see it.
I got two other computers here, so I can turn those on. They'll make some more light. Okay, so I gave you some really important information tonight. Do you have any questions?
I have, but probably for another session. But I have. It would be about the how the microsystems fit into this, because we have a lot of microsystems in the body, like in the ears, in the belly, in the feet, and hands. So how it works, but probably to another session.
Yeah, it'll be for another session.
Mm-hmm.
It was really important for me to give these basics to you. I really,
Thank you.
you asked the question about the meridians going through the hours. And that was the perfect question to start understanding these diagonal axes. And to really understand that those exist. And it's part of the tradition is really important to know this. And you will not learn this in 5-element theory or even in Reiki or other systems. But I learned it through Jinshin Jitsu, and then I understood it through the spherical pattern. And so, basically we are here to try and study the spherical pattern. This is the breakthrough. This is the great enlightenment that we're going to have in like acupuncture and astrology is the spherical pattern is going to make sense of everything now. And it does. Once we start seeing the patterns and seeing the traditions, now we can understand where those traditions came from. And so the spherical pattern is the one thing that is teaching us, helping us understand, what we read in the books. Because we really don't understand sometimes what we read in the books. What is the yin chao? What is the chong mai? What are these things? What are chakras? What are dantians? The middle dantian, the lower dantian, and the upper dantian. What are these things? Why are they separate from the chakras? And then we can understand from the spherical pattern where everything is and why everything is where it is and how they relate. So this is really advanced knowledge to understand these things. The spherical pattern is just helping us really understand things at a higher level. So that's basically it for tonight.